The purpose of this video series is to raise awareness about a serious problem that has been flying under the radar of most people. And that problem is that when a victim of sexual assault reports their assault to police, there is a risk that if the police do not believe them, they could be prosecuted for false reporting. This terrifying outcome has happened to many genuine victims of sexual assault, some of whom have even been jailed for reporting that they were raped. You may have seen on Netflix the series Unbelievable or the documentary Victim Suspect, which highlight a few examples of this phenomenon. My name is Lisa Avalos, and I'm a law professor with expertise in sex crimes, including sexual assault investigation best practices. I appeared in the documentary Victim Suspect, and I have written several articles about the problem of sexual assault victims being prosecuted for false reporting. I've served as an expert witness in several cases where this has happened, and I've assisted victims in getting their convictions for false reporting overturned. I'm also a contributing author to this police training bulletin, Raped Then Jailed: The Risks of Prosecution for Falsely Reporting Sexual Assault, which was published by End Violence Against Women International in 2019 and has been updated since then. When victims of sexual assault are prosecuted for false reporting, they are clearly not being prosecuted on the basis of evidence that they lied about being raped, because they were raped. Instead, they are being prosecuted on the basis of police disbelieving them. And this is wrong, because the law requires that anyone prosecuted for committing a crime should only be arrested and convicted on the basis of evidence that they broke the law. Organizations that train police in sexual assault investigation best practices agree that when a person is being accused of making a false report of a crime, police must have evidence that proves that no crime was committed or attempted against the person. So how can such a horrible miscarriage of justice happen, and happen regularly? The reason actual victims of sexual assault are prosecuted for false reporting is because disbelief of sexual assault victims is very common. This disbelief often results from inadequate training about and understanding of sex crimes and of the trauma that sex crimes victims experience, and it also results from police relying on rape myths and stereotypes. As a result, it is quite common to see police fail to conduct a thorough and objective investigation into complaints of sexual assault. Studies done by the U.S. Department of Justice have found that some police officers approach sexual assault investigation by trying to prove from the outset that the victim is lying because they think that this approach will allow them to avoid doing any investigation. And this approach, as you can imagine, encourages officers to invest their energy in trying to prove that the allegation is false rather than actually developing the expertise necessary to solve challenging sex crimes cases. A second reason that actual victims of sexual assault are prosecuted for false reporting is because police have a lot of power, but they are often not held accountable for how they use that power. Officers can use their power for good purposes or bad ones, and importantly, they have the power to get rid of crimes not just by solving them, but also by accusing the victims of lying. So when we hear police say that a victim lied about being raped, we have to ask, how did they reach that conclusion? And we must critically examine the evidence to see if it actually supports that conclusion. I have found that all too often, it does not. In cases where victims of sexual assault end up being charged with false reporting, the victim is being put on trial on the basis of disbelief, not on the basis of evidence. And that is legally insufficient for conviction because the law requires that each and every criminal defendant be convicted on the basis of evidence of their crimes, not on the basis that police did not believe them when they reported a crime. So in this series of videos, we will examine the case of Gail Sherwood, a woman who was prosecuted for reporting rape when police did not believe her complaints that she had been stalked and raped by a man unknown to her. Because there was no evidence in this case proving that the crimes that Gail reported to police did not happen, her case never should have gone to a jury, and she never should have been put on trial. So I'm not just saying that the jury got it wrong, I'm saying that there was no question of fact for the jury to decide. So who is Gail Sherwood? Gail is a British woman who told her local police back in 2008 that she had been stalked for several months by a man unknown to her, but whose voice she recognized from his repeated phone calls. The man also left unwanted items at her home or on her car, such as condoms, flowers, and cards. The stalking had a sexual theme, and it escalated to the point that Gail was raped twice, in April and June of 2008. On both of these occasions, police found Gail in a secluded, wooded area, naked from the waist down, with her hands tied tightly together and secured to a fence. To date, police have not identified Gail's assailant, and that is because they decided early on that Gail was a fantasist and that her stalker did not exist. She was arrested for false reporting about 2 weeks after the second rape, and while she was awaiting trial, she was raped a third time by the same man, but she did not report this rape to the police for fear that they would charge her with another count of false reporting. After a trial that lasted 6 weeks, Gail was convicted by a jury of the offense of perverting the course of justice. She served nearly 8 months in prison in 2010, followed by 6 months of house arrest. Ever since then, she's been trying to clear her name. But that is not all. Since her release from prison, her assailant has returned to rape her again 4 more times, once in 2013, twice in 2019, and once in 2020. But Gail can't go to the police about any of these additional rapes because she doesn't want to be prosecuted for lying again. Her biggest fear is being sent back to prison. The police department who dismissed her claims and charged her with false reporting is still doing the same thing to other women. So as Gail works to clear her name, this video series will help people to understand what her case is about and why the problem of how police respond to victims of sexual assault is a problem much bigger than just Gail's case.